The message arrived on a cold morning in December. Elena Vasquez was drinking her coffee when her assistant ran into the room. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. He held a tablet like it was made of gold. "Ambassador," he said, "you need to see this." Elena took the tablet. She read the message 3 times. Then she put down her coffee and sat very still for a long moment. Humanity had been invited to the Galactic Concord. For 200 years, humans had spread across the stars. They had built colonies on distant worlds. They had created new technologies. They had wondered if they were alone in the universe. They were not alone. The galaxy was full of life. Thousands of species lived among the stars. And the oldest and most powerful of them had formed a government called the Galactic Concord. The Concord controlled everything: trade, territory, laws, peace, and war. No species could rise to power without their approval. No world was safe without their protection. They had ruled the galaxy for over 12,000 years, and now they had noticed humanity. Elena read the invitation again. Humanity was being offered observer status. They could send a small group to watch the Concord meetings. They could not speak. They could not vote. They could only sit and learn. It was not much. But it was a beginning. Elena was chosen to lead the mission. She was 53 years old. She had spent her whole life in diplomacy. She had ended wars. She had built alliances. She had faced the worst that humans could do to each other. But this was different. This was not human politics. This was the galaxy itself. The journey took 3 months. Elena used every hour to study. She learned about the alien species. She learned their histories. She learned their customs. She learned their prejudices. The galaxy, she discovered, was not a fair place. The oldest species held all the power. The Vethkai had existed for 900,000 years. They were tall beings made of living crystal. They believed that age was wisdom. To them, humanity was like a baby trying to sit at a table with adults. The Illuminer were beings of pure light. They had watched stars being born. They had seen entire species rise and fall. They considered physical beings to be lower forms of life. The Kreth Dominion was an empire of warriors. They had conquered 1,000 worlds before joining the Concord. They respected only strength. And to them, humans were weak little creatures with soft bodies and short lives. Elena learned something else too. Young species were never respected. Most species took thousands of years to earn a voice in the Concord. Some never earned it at all. They remained observers forever, watching others make decisions about their fate. The human ship arrived at Concord Station on a bright morning. Elena stood at the window and looked out at the massive structure. It was the size of a small moon. Lights covered its surface like stars. Ships from 1,000 worlds flew around it like insects around a lamp. Elena felt very small. The welcome was cold. A Vethkai official met them at the dock. He looked at the humans with eyes that held no warmth. He spoke to them like a teacher speaking to children who did not belong in his classroom. "You will follow me," he said. "You will not touch anything. You will not speak to anyone. You will go where I tell you to go." Elena nodded. She said nothing. They were given the worst quarters on the station. The rooms were small and dark. The air smelled strange. The beds were hard. Elena's assistant started to complain, but she stopped him with a look. "We are guests here," she said quietly. "We will accept what we are given." The next day, Elena attended her first Concord meeting. The chamber was enormous. It could hold 10,000 beings. Platforms floated in the air, each one carrying representatives from different species. The oldest species sat closest to the center. The youngest sat at the edges, far from the action. Humanity's platform was the farthest of all. Elena could barely see the main stage. The speakers were tiny figures in the distance. She had to use a screen to see their faces. She watched. She listened. She learned. The Concord worked on hierarchy. The elder races made the decisions. The younger races followed. When a young species spoke, the elders often ignored them. When an elder species spoke, everyone listened. Elena noticed something else. The elder races did not just ignore the young. They mocked them. Small comments, little jokes, smiles that were not friendly. They treated younger species like servants or pets. One day, a young species asked for help. Their world was dying. They needed resources. They needed technology. They begged the Concord for aid. The High Arbiter of HFY, named Celtos, listened to their plea. Then he smiled. It was not a kind smile. Your world is dying because you failed to plan, he said. This is a lesson. Learn from it. The chamber laughed. 4,000 species laughed at a dying world. Elena did not laugh. She sat in her distant seat and watched. She recorded everything. She noted every insult, every dismissal, every cruel smile. Weeks passed, then months. Elena attended every meeting. She studied every debate. She learned how power worked in the galaxy. She learned who held it and who did not. She learned what the Concord really was. It was not a government. It was a club for the old and powerful. Everyone else was just decoration. Elena's assistant grew frustrated. Why do we stay? They asked one night. They treat us like dirt. They do not even look at us. What is the point? Elena looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity was waiting. Billions of people hoping that their ambassador would bring them into the galactic community, hoping that they would finally have a place among the stars. The point, Elena said slowly, is to understand. Before you can change something, you must first understand it. Change it? Her assistant looked confused. How can we change anything? We are nothing here. Elena smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something hard in it. Something patient. Something that could wait. We are nothing today, she said. But today is not forever. She turned back to the window. The stars burned cold and bright in the darkness. 6 months after arriving, Elena made a decision. It was time to stop watching. It was time to speak. She filed a formal request with the Concord office. The request was simple. Humanity wanted to become a full member. They wanted voting rights. They wanted their territory recognized. They wanted a voice. The request was accepted. Elena would speak before the full Concord in 3 days. She spent those 3 days preparing. She wrote her speech. She practiced it 100 times. She prepared evidence of humanity's achievements, their science, their art, their progress. She was ready. She did not know that the Concord was ready too, but not to listen. They were ready to laugh. The day arrived like any other. The lights of Concord Station glowed the same as always. Ships flew in and out. Beings of 1,000 shapes walked the corridors. Nothing seemed different, but everything was about to change. Elena Vasquez woke early. She dressed in her finest clothes. A simple black suit with a silver pin showing Earth on her collar. She looked at herself in the mirror. She saw a woman of 53 years. Gray in her hair. Lines on her face. But her eyes were clear and steady. Today, she said to her reflection, we ask for our place in the stars. The chamber was full when she arrived. Word had spread that the humans were going to speak. Many species had come to watch. Not because they cared about humanity. They came because they wanted entertainment. A young species asking for membership was always good for a laugh. Elena walked to the central platform. It was the first time a human had stood there. The first time a human voice would fill this ancient chamber. She felt the weight of billions of people on her shoulders. Everyone back home was counting on her dot. The platform rose into the air. Elena looked out at the vast crowd. Thousands of faces stared back at her. Some curious, some bored, some already smiling, ready to laugh. High Arbiter Celtos sat on his throne of crystal. He was ancient even by Vethkai standards. He had led the Concord for 3,000 years. His body glowed with inner light. His eyes were cold. "The representative from Earth may speak," he said. His voice carried no interest. He sounded like a man watching an insect crawl across his table. Elena activated her translator. She took a deep breath. Then she began. "Honored members of the Galactic Concord," she said. "I stand before you today to request full membership for humanity. We ask for voting rights. We ask for recognition of our territory. We ask for a voice in this great assembly." She presented her evidence. She showed humanity's achievements, their science, their medicine, their art and music. She showed how far they had come in just 200 years of space travel. She spoke of their dreams, their hopes, their desire to be part of something greater. She spoke for 20 minutes. She spoke with passion and pride. She gave the best speech of her life. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Then High Arbiter Celtos laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who has heard a very foolish joke. The sound echoed through the chamber, and then others joined in. The Illumina, the Kreth, species after species. 4,000 voices laughing at humanity. Elena stood still. She did not move. She did not speak. She waited. Celtos raised his hand. The laughter slowly died. He looked down at Elena with something like pity. But it was not real pity. It was the false pity of the powerful for the weak. "How adorable," he said. "The little humans want to play with the adults." More laughter. Elena felt it wash over her like cold water. The Illumina representative spoke next. It was a being of pure golden light. Its voice rang like bells. "Do they even understand what they are asking?" It said, "Membership requires wisdom. It requires experience. These creatures have existed for the blink of an eye. Their entire civilization is younger than my morning meditation." The Kreth delegate rose. He was a massive creature covered in hard plates. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "I have studied these humans," he said. "Let me share what I have found." He activated a display. Images appeared in the air. Wars, bombs, burning cities, pollution, famine, all the worst moments of human history. "They fight each other constantly," the Kreth said. "They poison their own world. They cannot even agree among themselves. There are still nations on their planet that hate each other. They are divided, weak, primitive." He turned to look directly at Elena. His eyes held nothing but contempt. "They cannot even unify their own world," he said. "And they want to stand among the stars? They want to sit beside species that have existed since before their son was born?" The chamber erupted in agreement. Representatives shouted their support. Some called out insults. Others simply laughed. One voice rose above the others. It was a small lizard-like creature from a species Elena did not recognize. "Their lives are so short," it said. "They live for what? 80 years? 90? By the time they learn anything, they die. How can such brief creatures have any wisdom to offer?" More agreement. More laughter. A tall, thin being with too many arms spoke next. "I have heard they still eat dead animals. They put flesh in their mouths. How barbaric. How disgusting." The insults continued. Every part of humanity was mocked. Their bodies, their lifespans, their history, their food, their art, their dreams. Nothing was spared. Elena stood through all of it. She did not cry. She did not shout. She did not beg. She simply stood and listened. Finally, High Arbiter Celtos raised his hand again. The chamber fell silent. "I do not think we need a vote," he said. "The petition is clearly unworthy of consideration. Humanity is not ready for membership. Perhaps in 10,000 years, they may ask again. If they survive that long." He smiled. It was the smile of someone stepping on an insect. "You may return to your seat, little human," he said. "Thank you for the entertainment." The chamber laughed one final time. Elena stood at the podium. 4,000 species watched her. They waited for her to beg. They waited for her to cry. They waited for her to argue and plead and bargain for scraps. That was what young species did. They always begged. They always accepted whatever little bit of respect they were given. They were grateful for crumbs. Elena looked out at the vast chamber. She saw the smiling faces, the contempt in their eyes, the absolute certainty that humanity was nothing, would always be nothing. She thought of Earth. She thought of her family. She thought of all the people who had hoped and dreamed of this moment. She thought of the future. And then Elena Vasquez did something that no species had done in 12,000 years. She closed her datapad. She gathered her materials. She turned away from the podium. And without a single word, she began to walk toward the exit. The laughter died. Confusion spread across the chamber. What was happening? This was not protocol. Young species did not walk away. They stayed. They begged. They accepted. "Where are you going?" Celtos called out. "We are not finished here." Elena did not stop. She did not turn around. She did not speak. She just walked. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Every eye in the chamber watched her. 4,000 species sat frozen, not understanding what they were seeing. The doors opened before her. Elena walked through them without looking back. Behind her, the chamber exploded into chaos. Voices shouted. Questions flew. What did this mean? What were the humans doing? But Elena was already gone. She had said everything she needed to say. She had said nothing at all. The doors closed behind Elena Vasquez. The sound echoed through the empty corridor. She stood alone in the silence. Her heart was beating fast. Her hands were shaking, but her face showed nothing. She had done it. She had walked away. Her assistant ran up to her. His face was white with shock. He looked like a man who had just watched someone jump off a cliff. "Ambassador," he said, "what happened? Why did you leave? We can go back. We can apologize. We can try again." Elena looked at him. Her eyes were calm. There was no regret in them. No fear. Only a strange, cold peace. "We are not going back," she said. "We are leaving. Get everyone to the ship. We depart in 1 hour. But Ambassador, 1 hour." She walked away. Her footsteps were steady and sure. Behind her, the young man stood frozen. He did not understand. He could not understand. Not yet. Word spread quickly through Concord Station. The humans were leaving, not returning to their quarters, not waiting for another chance. Actually leaving. Going home. The Concord officials sent messages. The humans did not answer. They sent more messages. Still no answer. They sent delegates to the human ship. The doors remained closed. No one came out. No one spoke. The ship sat silent and dark. Inside. Elena supervised the departure. Her people worked quickly. They loaded their equipment. They secured their belongings. They asked questions with their eyes, but they did not speak. They had learned from their ambassador. Sometimes silence said more than words. 1 hour later, the human ship powered up its engines. The Concord sent final messages. They demanded explanations. They threatened consequences. They offered new meetings, new discussions, new opportunities. The humans did not respond. The ship turned away from Concord Station. It moved slowly at first, then faster. Within minutes, it was just a small point of light in the distance. Within hours, it was gone. For the first time in 12,000 years, a species had walked away from the Galactic Concord. The chamber was still in chaos. High Arbiter Celtos tried to restore order. He demanded silence. He demanded calm. But the questions would not stop. What does this mean? Where are they going? Will they come back? Should we stop them? The elder races tried to dismiss the event. It was nothing, they said. A childish tantrum. The humans were embarrassed by their rejection. They were sulking. They would return in a few years, begging for another chance. Young species always did. Let them go, Celtos said. His voice was calm, but there was something uncertain in his eyes. They are nothing. They have no power. They have no technology worth noting. They will realize their mistake soon enough. The other elder races agreed. The Illumina called it expected behavior from primitive beings. The Kreth said the humans were too weak to face the truth. Everyone nodded. Everyone agreed. But not everyone was satisfied. In the far corners of the chamber, other species watched in silence. Young species. Ignored species. Species who had sat in those distant seats for thousands of years. Never given a voice. Never shown respect. They had seen what the humans did. They had seen a species refuse to beg. They had seen someone walk away with dignity instead of crawling for scraps. They did not speak about it. But they remembered. Months passed. The Concord returned to normal. The daily business of the galaxy continued. Treaties were signed. Disputes were settled. The elder races made their decisions, and everyone else followed. But there was a silence where humanity had been. The Concord sent messages to human space. They offered new talks. They suggested misunderstandings could be corrected. They hinted that perhaps, maybe, humanity could return as observers. Just to watch. Just to learn. The humans did not respond. More months passed. Then a year. Then 2 years. The humans had closed their borders. Not aggressively. Not with weapons or threats. They simply stopped communicating. Ships that approached human space were turned away politely. Messages were received, but never answered. It was as if humanity had simply decided that the rest of the galaxy did not exist. This bothered the elder races more than they wanted to admit. They will come back, the Illuminer said. They have no choice. They need our technology. They need our trade. They cannot survive alone. Let them try, the Kreth agreed. They will learn. In 100 years, they will crawl back to us on their knees. High Arbiter Celto said nothing. He sat on his crystal throne and thought. Something about the humans troubled him. Not their rejection. Not their silence. Something else. The way the woman had looked at him before she walked away. There had been no anger in her eyes. No sadness. No fear. There had been patience. The patience of someone who was willing to wait. Someone who was playing a longer game than anyone realized. But Celtos pushed the thought away. Humans live for less than 100 years. What kind of long game could such brief creatures play? He returned to the business of running the galaxy. The humans would be forgotten soon enough. They were nothing. They had always been nothing. In human space, Elena Vasquez returned to Earth. She was welcomed as a hero by some. Others called her a fool. She had thrown away humanity's one chance at galactic recognition. She had insulted the most powerful beings in the universe. She had doomed humanity to isolation. Elena listened to all of it. The praise and the criticism. The hope and the anger. She listened, and then she spoke. Not to the public. Not to the media. She spoke to the leaders of humanity. In a closed room with no cameras and no recordings. She told them what she had seen. She told them what she had learned. She told them what the galaxy really thought of humanity. They will never respect us, she said. They will never see us as equals. To them, we are insects, pets, entertainment. We can beg for 1,000 years, and nothing will change. The room was silent. So, what do we do? Someone asked. Elena smiled. It was a small smile. A patient smile. We stop begging, she said. We stop asking for their approval. We stop caring what they think of us. We close our borders. We focus on ourselves. We build. We grow. We become something they never imagined possible. And then, Elena's smile grew colder. And then, when we are ready, we show them exactly what they laughed at. The leaders looked at each other. Some were scared. Some were excited. Some thought Elena was crazy. But in the end, they agreed. Humanity would turn inward. Humanity would build. Humanity would wait. And the galaxy would learn what human patience really meant. Elena Vasquez died 30 years later. She was 83 years old. She died peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by her family. Her last words were to her granddaughter, a young girl named Lynn. Remember what they did to us, Elena whispered. Remember. And never let anyone make you feel small. Lynn held her grandmother's hand and promised she would remember. 50 years passed like water through fingers. The galaxy turned. Stars were born. Stars died. Empires rose and fell at the edges of known space. The Galactic Concord continued its ancient work of ruling, judging, and deciding the fate of thousands of species. And humanity was forgotten. Oh, the elder races remembered that the humans existed. Their space was marked on maps. Their borders were noted. But no one thought about them anymore. They were a small footnote in galactic history. A young species that had come, asked for too much, and vanished back into the darkness. Whatever happened to the humans? Someone would ask occasionally, who knows? Would come the answer, who cares? But something was happening behind those closed borders. Something quiet. Something patient. Something that would change everything. It started with rumors. Traders who flew near human space reported strange lights in the distance. Energy readings that made no sense. Ships that appeared and disappeared too quickly to track. At first, no one paid attention. Space was full of strange things. Lights and readings meant nothing. Then the craft sent a spy ship. The craft Dominion did not trust anyone. They liked to watch their neighbors. They liked to know what everyone was doing. So they sent a small, fast ship to slip past the human border and see what was happening. The ship never came back. 3 months later, it reappeared at a Kreth station. The crew was alive and healthy. They had not been harmed. Their ship had not been damaged. They had simply been caught, held for a few weeks, and then released. But the Kreth commander who led the mission was changed. He would not speak about what he had seen. When pressed, he would only shake his head and say one thing: "They are not what we thought they were." Then he resigned from the military and never spoke of the mission again. More reports came in over the following years. A trading ship got lost and drifted into human space. They were rescued by a human vessel. The traders described technology they could not understand. Engines that made no sound. Hulls that seemed to flow like liquid. Communication devices that worked instantly across any distance. "Impossible," the Illuminers said when they heard. These are the fantasies of simple minds. The humans have nothing we do not have. But the reports kept coming. The Concord sent official observers to the edge of human space. They were not allowed to cross the border, but they could watch from the outside. They set up stations. They pointed their sensors inward. They tried to see what the humans were building. What they saw disturbed them. The humans had spread. When they left the Concord 50 years ago, they had controlled 12 star systems. Now their territory covered at least 40 systems. Maybe more. The observers could not be sure because their sensors kept giving strange readings. How did they expand so fast? The observers asked. They do not have faster than light travel. It should take them decades to colonize a single system. But the humans had done it. Somehow. The observers did not know how. Then came the energy readings. Inside human space, there were power sources that should not exist. Energy levels that broke every known law of physics. Something was being built in there. Something big. Something that the finest scientists in the Concord could not explain. High Arbiter Celtos read the reports in his private chambers. He was old now, even by Vethkai standards. His crystal body had grown cloudy with age. But his mind was still sharp. And what he read worried him. They are advancing too quickly, he said to his advisors. This is not natural. No species advances this fast. Perhaps the reports are wrong, an advisor suggested. Perhaps our observers made mistakes. Perhaps, Celto said. But he did not believe it. The other young species had noticed too. For 50 years, they had watched human space with quiet interest. They had seen a species walk away with dignity. They had wondered what would happen next. Now they knew. Whispers spread through the lower levels of the Concord. Did you hear about the humans? They have new technology. They have new ships. They have become something different. Something powerful. The elder races tried to stop the whispers. They called them lies. They called them fantasies. They reminded everyone that humans lived short lives and had small brains and could never match the achievements of ancient civilizations. But the whispers would not stop. At the 70-year mark. The Kreth Dominion made a decision. They would reach out to humanity. They would offer friendship, trade, alliance. The Kreth had always respected strength. And the humans, it seemed, had found some. The Kreth sent a diplomatic message to human space. They spoke of new beginnings. They spoke of mutual respect. They spoke of partnership between equals. The human response came 3 days later. It was short. Just 3 words. We remember everything. That was all. No threats. No anger. No negotiation. Just 3 words, and then silence. The Kreth did not send another message. What does that mean? The Kreth ambassador asked his commanders. Are they threatening us? No one had an answer. But everyone felt a chill. The other elder races grew nervous. The Illuminer suggested sending a fleet to investigate human space. The Kreth agreed. Even some of the smaller powers supported the idea. But High Arbiter Celtos refused. We do not know what they have, he said. We do not know what they can do. If we send a fleet and something goes wrong, we could start a war we cannot win. Cannot win? The Kreth ambassador was shocked. They are humans. They live for a handful of years. They are nothing. Celtos looked at him with ancient eyes. Then, why are you afraid? The Kreth had no answer. At the 8-year mark, something new happened. Ships began appearing outside human space. Not human ships. Ships from other young species. Species that had been ignored by the Concord for centuries. Species that had been mocked and dismissed, just like humanity. They flew to the human border. They sent messages. And then, they were let in. No one knew what happened inside. But the ships that returned carried different crews. Crews with new technology. Crews with new hope. Crews that looked at the Concord with different eyes. Word spread. The humans were building something. Not just technology. Not just ships. They were building alliances. They were gathering the forgotten species. They were creating something new. The Concord tried to stop it. They threatened the young species. They cut off trade. They made demands. But the young species did not listen anymore. "What can you do to us?" they asked. "You have ignored us for thousands of years." The humans offer us respect. They offer us partnership. They offer us a voice. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Galactic Concord was losing control. High Arbiter Seltos sat alone in his chambers. He was very old now. His light was fading. But he remembered that day, 90 years ago, when a human woman had stood before him and asked for respect. He remembered laughing. He remembered the way she had looked at him before she walked away. The patience in her eyes. The certainty that she had known something he did not. She had seen a future he could not imagine. Seltos looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity was waiting. They had been patient for 90 years. They had built something in the darkness. Something that was about to change everything. He wondered if it was too late to apologize. He suspected it was. The 100th year was approaching. And with it, something was coming. Something that the Concord had created with their own cruelty and blindness. The humans were ready to return. But this time, they would not be asking for anything. 100 years to the day, the ship appeared without warning. One moment, the space near Concord station was empty. The next moment, it was there. No approach vector. No engine trail. No energy signature that anyone could detect. It simply existed where nothing had been before. The station's alarm screamed. Defense systems activated. 1,000 weapons pointed at the strange vessel. For long minutes, no one moved. No one spoke. Then the ship sent a message. "This is the Terran vessel Patience. Ambassador Lynn Vasquez requests permission to address the Galactic Concord." The message sent shockwaves through the station. The humans had returned. After 100 years of silence, they had come back, and they had come in a ship that should not exist. The Concord scientists analyzed the vessel. They could not understand what they saw. The hull was made of materials that did not appear in any database. The ship had no visible engines, no weapons ports, no seams or joints. It looked less like a machine and more like a living thing, a creature of metal and light that had somehow been tamed. How did they build this? The scientists asked each other. No one had an answer. High Arbiter Seltos was still alive. Barely. He was over 3,000 years old now, ancient even for his kind. His body was failing. His light was dim. But when he heard that the humans had returned, something sparked in his fading eyes. "Let them in," he commanded. "Let them speak." The chamber was full when Lynn Vasquez arrived. Every species had sent representatives. Every seat was taken. Beings crowded in the corridors, watching through screens. The entire galaxy wanted to see what would happen next. The doors opened. Lynn Vasquez walked in alone. She was 50 years old. Her hair was dark. Her eyes were brown. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations, no medals. On her collar was a small silver pin showing Earth, the same pin her grandmother had worn 100 years ago. She looked ordinary, small, human, but the way she walked was not ordinary. It was the walk of someone who knew exactly where she was going, someone who had nothing to prove and nothing to fear. The platform rose into the air. Lynn looked out at the vast chamber. Thousands of faces stared back at her. She saw fear in some eyes, curiosity in others, anger in many, but no one was laughing. High Arbiter, Lynn said. Members of the Galactic Concord, thank you for allowing me to speak. Celtos looked down at her from his crystal throne. He was a shadow of what he had been. His voice crackled with age. The Concord welcomes the representative of Earth, he said. The formal words felt strange in his mouth. You may state your purpose. Lynn smiled. It was her grandmother's smile. Patient, cold, certain. 100 years ago, she said, my grandmother stood where I stand now. She asked for humanity to be recognized as equals. She asked for respect. She asked for a voice. The chamber was silent. You laughed at her, Lynn continued. You called us infants. You showed us our wars and our failures. You told us we were nothing, that we would always be nothing. She paused. Her eyes moved across the crowd. My grandmother listened to every word. She recorded every insult. And then she did something none of you expected. She walked away. You thought she was running, Lynn said. You thought she was weak. You thought we would come crawling back, begging for scraps of your approval. Her smile grew wider. You were wrong. She raised her hand. Displays appeared in the air around her. Data, charts, images, the achievements of humanity over the past century. We did not come back to beg, Lynn said. We did not come back to ask for membership. We came to inform you of what has happened while you were laughing. The displays showed human technology. Ships that could cross the galaxy in days. Energy sources that pulled power from the fabric of space itself. Medical advances that had tripled the human lifespan. Machines that could build anything, anywhere, from nothing but raw atoms. We have surpassed you, Lynn said simply. In 7 major technological categories, humanity now leads the galaxy. Our ships are faster. Our weapons are stronger. Our science is deeper. Everything you said we could never achieve, we have achieved and more. The chamber erupted in protests. Impossible. Lies. Human propaganda. But the data was there. Clear and undeniable. The Concord's own scientists had analyzed the human ship. They knew it was real. Lynn raised her hand again. The displays changed. Now they showed flags, symbols, faces. We did not do this alone, she said. For 50 years, we welcomed the species you ignored. The young races you mocked and dismissed. The ones you told they would never amount to anything. Names appeared on the screens. 200 species. 200 flags. Together, we formed the Terran Cooperative, Lynn said. An alliance of equals. Every species has a voice. Every species has a vote. No one is dismissed because they are young. No one is mocked because they are different. She looked directly at High Arbiter Celtos. We built what you could not. A community based on respect instead of age. On cooperation instead of hierarchy. On hope instead of contempt. The old Vethkai said nothing. His light flickered. We did not come here to threaten you, Lynn said. We did not come here to demand anything. We came here to offer you a choice. She placed the document on the podium. It was simple. A single page. This is an open invitation. Any Concord species that wishes to establish equal, bilateral relations with the Terran Cooperative may do so. We offer trade, technology exchange, mutual defense. All we ask in return is respect. She stepped back from the podium. The galaxy is changing, she said. You can change with it. Or you can be remembered the way we remember you. As a warning. As proof of what happens when you let arrogance blind you to the potential in others. Lynn Vasquez looked out at the silent chamber one last time. My grandmother told me something before she died. She said that the most powerful thing you can do is walk away and build something better. We did that. We built something beautiful. something that will last for thousands of years. She smiled. Her grandmother's smile. You laughed at us once. I hope it was worth it. Then Lynn turned and began to walk toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the silence, just like her grandmother's had 100 years before. But this time, something different happened. Behind her, a delegate stood up. A young species from the outer systems. They had been observers for 3,000 years, never given a voice, never shown respect. They stepped out of their platform and began to follow Lynn. Then another species stood, and another, and another. One by one, they rose. The young, the forgotten, the mocked. They stepped down from their platforms and walked toward the exit, toward the human who had shown them a different way. 17 species followed Lynn Vasquez out of the chamber that day. The elder races shouted for order. They demanded obedience. They threatened consequences, but no one was listening anymore. Lynn walked through the doors. Behind her came the representatives of a new galaxy. A galaxy where age did not mean wisdom, where power did not mean cruelty, where every voice mattered. The doors closed behind them. In the chamber, chaos reigned. The elder races screamed at each other. They blamed each other. They demanded someone fix this. Someone stop this, but it was too late. The old order was dying, and something new was being born. High Arbiter Celto sat alone on his crystal throne. He watched the chaos around him. He thought of that day, 100 years ago, when a human woman had asked for respect and he had laughed. He had made a terrible mistake. He knew that now, but it was far too late to fix it. Outside the station, the Terran ship waited. Lynn Vasquez boarded with the delegates of 17 species. They stood together on the bridge, looking out at the stars. Where do we go now? One of them asked. Lynn smiled. It was a warm smile this time, a smile full of hope. Home, she said. We go home, and we build the future together. The ship disappeared without a sound. It left no trace. It simply went as quietly as it had come. The stars burned on in the darkness, cold and bright and full of promise. Somewhere, Elena Vasquez was smiling. Her granddaughter had kept her promise. She had remembered, and she had shown the galaxy what humanity could become. Not conquerors, not destroyers, not rulers. Just people who refused to let anyone tell them what they were worth. That was enough. That was everything.